Thank you, Sylvia. I would like to warmly introduce Christian Lovis today. Christian is a professor of clinical informatics at the University of Geneva and the chairman of the Division of Medical Information Sciences at the University of Geneva. He's a medical doctor with board certified in internal and emergency medicine, holds a master in public health, and did a parallel education in biomedical informatics, focusing on clinical information systems, clinical data interoperability, and medical semantics. Christian was also involved in SPHN from the very beginning. He is member of the Scientific Expert Board and chairs the working group of the DCC Clinical Semantics Interoperability. Christian, you will introduce to us today two projects: the de-identification of clinical narrative data in French, German, and Italian, and the second one is the LOINC for Swiss laboratories, also called LACHLab project. I give the word to you. Thank you very much for coming. Stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, everybody, for attending. So I will present you two relatively small projects, in fact, in terms of their financial impact on SPHN. One is the de-identification project, which is the first one. It's a project which is essentially led by Geneva, and it will present you a strategy for the identification. And the second is about trying to address the problem of standards for sharing laboratory values. So I will start with the identification. So as you know, the identification of textual documents is really important to support secondary usage of data. And there are many objectives of this secondary usage. Billing and accreditation process is one of them, but there are public health, research, quality, safety, post-market surveillance, and many other require actually the need to look into documents, written documents, medical narratives, mostly summaries, discharge summaries, reports of care activities. So, looking into this report for a secondary usage is under a framework of legal and other frameworks. I will not enter into this because it's not I don't know anything about it, basically. It's not my topic, except that still I want to remind you all that for many of the research activities, we need to comply to some international standards. And there are many large journals or publishers that requires the use of data in order to be published to comply to regulation such as IRB, such as consent, such as a clear de-identification process. So what does it mean, a clear de-identification process? Today, we can see that there is a continuum between identified information and identified documents and anonymized information. And it goes through something which is today a little bit a fuzzy understanding, which is pseudonymized or de-identified. When I say it's a fuzzy understanding, it's really a fuzzy understanding. In the Swiss regulation, for example, it's clearly said that something which is anonymized doesn't require to go through the IRB. It's the case also with the general regulation in Europe, where anonymized data do not enter into the GDPR. They are excluded from the GDPR. They are considered as non-private information. And there is a huge literature available, and I just show you here one example of them that demonstrate how difficult it is today to anonymize information. And well, I say difficult. In fact, it's not possible to anonymize information while keeping the data to the data their analytical power. So each time you go into increased anonymity, you go along with decreased analytical power. It's a balance between high analytical power, low anonymity, or high anonymity, low analytical power. So it's a choice between these two. But looking at what is de-identification, what is pseudonymization, and what is anonymization in the literature, which is a work we did within this project also, did show that it's also pretty fuzzy the way it's understood by the scientists, whereas the regulatory framework is not fuzzy at all. So from a regulatory point of view, it's really clear what things mean, but the way the researcher, they see things, they understand things, they actually implement things is a little bit less formal, I would say, to say the least. So this has been accepted for publication. It's already available as preprints on the GMER. So looking at techniques to de-identify or to anonymize or to do whatever is in between, that has been published gives a lot of different results, and we can see that there is a lot of different approaches that have been used and tested in the literature with more or less satisfactory results, with more or less generalizability, with more or less ability to respond to different type of constraints. And in this project, what we decided is that one of the important constraints that has to be met is that we have to be able to use the de-identification process in such a way that we can go to high-ranked journals and use a formal approach that is recognized as being a sufficient approach, so that we are not facing problems with the publication process. And on the other side, we must make sure that this is something that can answer the requirements, the needs, and the constraints of the data providers, which are the data source, and it is the hospitals. And if you look at the hospitals, it's of course not a research environment. Whatever we do, it shall be able to be put into IT production. It's not something that has to be done and used by the research team, but the de-identification process has to be made at the source of the document. It means that the way the document leaves the hospital has to be already de-identified. It is not a secondary de-identification, but a primary de-identification, which means that whatever tools are used, they must be compliant to the requirements of IT production in hospitals, such as pen tests and load and maintenance and failover and so on. The systems, they have to be explainable. We have millions of documents, and the frameworks we are building, they are going to share a lot of documents. We are aiming at going to 80, 70, 80, 90% of general consent. You can imagine how many documents it might concern at term. So there will be problems with the identification processes. There will be the identification, and these problems, they will lead to probably to some legal consequences. It means that the problems have to be explainable, the systems have to be explainable, it has to be understandable, It has to be correctable. It means that if such a problem happens, you must be able to say, we understand what happened and we have a fix, we can correct it. Like if you kill a patient with an anesthetic drug or an anesthesia procedure, you must be able to explain what happened, and you must be able to demonstrate that there is a fix for that. And it must be possible for the hospital to commit that the solution will actually work. And this is things that hospitals have to do, these 4 points, for most of the activities of the hospital. They do it on a daily basis with their technologies, with what they do, the surgery activities, with using drugs, with everything we do in hospitals. These 4 things are true. It means that it will also have to be true for de-identification and other stuff. So the first important step to go into explainability is to be able to say in a formal way what are the rules that have been applied in order to make sure that we can say this is a de-identification process. What is a de-identification? And today, there is one framework giving a clear solution, a clear answer to that. It's the HIPAA, the US Health Protection Act for the insurance. And this is proposing, the HIPAA is proposing 2 methods. One is what they name the expert determination, which is more or less valid for small data sets. And the other one is the safe harbor approach, which is a definition of 18 identifiers that have to be removed from any documents so that they can be considered as de-identified. And this is the way we propose in this project, so that at least whatever happens, it is possible to say these 18 rules, they are internationally recognized. They are recognized also by journals for publication. They are backed up by the US government. They are used everywhere in the world. It's not something we have invented. It's something that has a serious background. It has a scientific background, and we apply this scientific background. So you have here the 18 identifiers. If we want to apply this in Switzerland, there are some little stuff that have to be changed, but basically you can see the social security numbers. It's the HHV number, the health plan beneficiary, it's the insurance numbers, and so on. So basically, you can apply these rules in Switzerland. What we did. So now that you have these kind of compliance to a legal framework and a technical framework that you can back up with evidence and with international adoption, we also defined a strategy which is now shown on the screen based on 3 pillars. The first pillar is kind of knowledge-driven de-identification. In a hospital, we have documents and we have administrative information about the patients. So we know the name of the patient. We know the birth date of the patient because it's the data we have also in our information system. So these information, which are known a priori in the systems, they can be found in the documents, and they can be replaced very specifically with very easy techniques like search, find, and replace. And it works well for a lot of it. Then the second pillar is to apply these rules. And this allows us to make sure that we can back up our position with a clear international recognized regulatory framework. But applying these rules on all textual documents, it's pretty costly. I will show you after, because it is not so easy to implement on an explainable way. And then we have the third pillar, which is trying to do the identification, eventually applying these rules, but using more probabilistic approaches, which is pretty easy to implement. There are already neural net doing that, that have been published, that work for English, and that can be trained for French or for German. They have been trained successfully with about 3,000 annotated documents for French. So it is doable, but it doesn't ensure several of the aspects that are rule-based. So for the rule-based method, it's using named entity recognition for the various identifier, which is implemented using techniques, which is a rule-based technique, but it's used finite state automata and a set of tools, the one here, Unitext and GramLab, which is an open source multilingual framework for natural language processing, and that can implement this type of tools, so that on one side you have the rules, and on the other side the engine running the rules. It allows to ease this production process, where you can actually pass through all the certification required by the production in hospitals, especially the pen test, the penetration tests. And once you have an engine, so to say, which has passed the test and is in production, you can adapt constantly the rules without having to repass all the process. Voilà. So this is an example of one of these automata for French, which is working for Geneva and CHUV for patient names. And as you can see, it's a complex graph, which is one of the strong limitations of the approach, is that you have to define such type of graphs for each language, sometimes for each type of document if they are too different one from the other. The advantage is that once you have done it on a language and types of document, it's extremely efficient. And you can see here the evaluation which we did on 1,000 summaries, and all has been done and validated manually with precision which is extremely high, and recall which is extremely good also, a little bit less good for location, but we have already understood what was the problem, but the precision was really important and really high. The total performance is over 99%. So the rule-based method has advantages. It is the first advantage is that it allows you to easily go to court, and this will happen. In my experience as CMIO in Geneva, I had this bad experience several times, so it happens. And for a hospital, going in this type of situation is a clear problem. So we need to make sure that there is a framework that also decreases the risk for the data providers. And this is clearly the case with a rule-based system. It's based on an international standard, it's recognized, it's validated, it's implemented, and it can have problems, but you can find the problem, you can explain the problem, you can correct the problem, you can commit on the correction, and so on. The disadvantage is that it's work intensive, it requires resources to build these rules. It's kind of a little bit old technologies to work on natural language processing with rule-based approaches, but it has all the advantages of these technologies to be robust and explainable, and it can easily be used in conjunction with other technologies, bringing is part of advantages and combining with other technologies. So in conclusion, what we did in this project is we did a scoping review, which is published now, about understanding better the use of anonymization, the identification, pseudonymization, and we have demonstrated that the understanding of the researchers is not very good compared to the existence of the definition in the legal framework and the constraints of hospitals. We have defined a formal strategy that can be explained, that can be used to implement it, and we have started to implement the second part of it, which is the most expensive part, by implementing something which is currently working in two French regions, and we are working with Bern and Ticino for the German and the Italian part. And it's done for this first presentation.